Today, we are diving into a pretty intense topic, narcissistic collapse in intimate relationships. And this is when a narcissist experiences a major breakdown, particularly when they've left one partner for another, only to realize that they made a mistake and then they find themselves facing a rough emotional fallout. It's a tricky and often painful situation. So let's break it down together and see what it really looks like. But before we do, let's take a look at what they put you through first, and then we'll get to their karma. So first of all, let's set the stage. You're in a relationship with someone who has narcissistic traits. At first, they were charming, confident. It felt as though the universe had sent you the perfect relationship. Maybe they were romantic and did things like setting up picnics and taking you to magical places. They captivated you in the most interesting conversations, or they just listened and they showed you this incredible compassion. So you felt heard, you felt seen, you felt loved and wanted, something that you probably struggled with growing up because as a child you were just never seen, or if you were, it was only to be an indispensable pawn for the shortcomings of another. Now, this new person is here showing you that you do matter. But after a while, you start to notice that they always seem to need validation and admiration. Times where you try to offer up advice or give an opinion that didn't match their opinion and they got angry. I mean, not just angry, but really angry. Even after being the one who asked for an opinion in the first place about something, you were put through the ringer with horrible things said to you that left you in a state of shock or freeze mode. And of course, as bizarre as that behavior might have been, you certainly weren't about to walk away from the goal that you had finally found, right? I mean, they love you. They really need you. They've proven to you how important that you are. So you think that they must have really been hurt in the past. So you're just going to love them out of this. And now that's where you were about to experience the cycle where they shower you with affection all over again. So you start to relax once again and you feel so grateful and relieved that all you want to do now is reward them in gratitude for the cookie crumb that they just handed over. Plus, you also want more yourself. If I can do this extra thing for them, they'll value me. They'll show me that I'm worthy. Because we too, as codependents, we look for external validation because we don't feel it internally. So we're thinking they'll prove to me that I'm enough. And that's where you fall short, because you're enough and worthy just by the mere fact that you're breathing. I mean, think about it. A baby doesn't have to do anything to be worthy of love, right? Their mere existence brings joy to the world, and yours is no different. You just bumped into the wrong people, that's all. Or you decided before coming into this body that you were going to pick these people so that you could learn lessons. Anyway, back to them. It's always about back to them, right? So this cycle goes round and round. Now, once this relationship has stabilized and the waters have been tested, they started to devalue you. They started devaluing you in subtle yet damaging ways, undermining your self-esteem and your self-worth. They used tactics such as emotional manipulation. They used gaslighting to make their partners question their own perceptions and feelings. And when you expressed hurt over their insensitive comments, they denied you of your pain by telling you that you were overly sensitive. So they shamed you, made you feel as though you were irrational. Or they denied ever saying anything hurtful, leaving you feeling angry and frustrated as they sat as calm as can be, making you look the fool, the unhinged one. And then what? Well, then you probably stood up for yourself. And how did that work out for you? It took you on yet another roller coaster ride of being put through hours of word salad that left you completely drained, and nothing got resolved. In fact, in that, you were attacked. You were told that you never listen. And so you sat there quietly to be the person who compromised and was willing to listen, so that you could work things out, give and take. So you gave them all the space they needed as they ran down the list of awful things that they've experienced with you. But as soon as it was your turn to talk, not a full sentence came out of your mouth where you were interrupted, yelled at, and accused again. Wow, just thinking about it exhausts me. Okay, so what else did you go through? Oh yes, the constant criticism and belittling. They offered up backhanded compliments and nitpicked all your actions, your decisions, your opinions, your beliefs, and appearance. With that, they created a persistent sense of inadequacy. They criticized your career choices, dismissed your achievements as insignificant, or commented negatively on your hair, your choice of clothes, your weight, making you feel once again that you just didn't measure up. And this continual negative feedback, it chipped away at your self-confidence and it reinforced their sense of superiority. Talk about exploitation. They withheld affection and attention as another strategy. They intermittently showered you with attention and affection to maintain control, and then they withdrew it abruptly to punish or manipulate. From excessively loving or attentive when trying to win an argument or regain control, only to become distant and unresponsive when you needed emotional support or reassurance about something. And of course, we can't forget all the stonewalling that took place and the non-ending days of silent treatment while you spent all of your energies trying to write letters or send emails in an attempt to talk, just to be ridiculed and pushed away again. And then when they were ready, all they had to say was something like, "We should be nicer to one another." Now this horrific experience of being ignored and unloved is now a relief, and so you take it. And this inconsistency like that, it created confusion and insecurity in you, making you increasingly dependent on their approval, aka trauma bond. And after all of this, once you started having their number, they started to engage in triangulation involving third parties to manipulate and control you. And this could have involved flaunting attention from others or speaking highly of others while demeaning you, making you feel less important and valued, or how much better someone else's achievements were compared to yours, and further eroding your sense of self-worth. And then eventually they discard you, moving on to someone else who they think will meet their needs better, because all of this is your fault. But even that wasn't enough pain to elicit on you. Then came the smear campaign. It wasn't painful enough to be hated and despised by them, but you had to be despised by everyone else. Your family now believes that you're unhinged and that you need help because these characters approached them with a worried look on their face. They put their mask on, showing immense concern for your well-being. They were the poor victim all along. Friends think that you're on drugs or that you've been speaking ill about them all along. You're left out naked in the street, nowhere to turn, no one to turn to. Now, let's take a look at what happens to a narcissist if they experience narcissistic collapse. So now with this new supply, what happens when the narcissist leaves you for these new partners, thinking that this new person will be the answer to all their problems? You've supplied them with lots of attention all this time, lots of service, money, vehicles, a clean home, and still it wasn't enough, or so they thought. At first, it might seem like they're on cloud nine, enjoying the new relationship and getting a fresh source of validation. But here's where things can get really interesting. Over time, the new partner might not provide the same level of admiration or validation that the narcissist expected. They might not chase after them when an argument takes place. Instead, they might walk out the door and go visit friends rather than send them 1,000 letters begging to talk things through. So less attention. The new relationship might not be as fulfilling as they thought it would be. Perhaps they're not sharing their vehicles with them, or not a maid picking up after them or cooking for them. Maybe they aren't taking them to restaurants, or maybe the partner doesn't have the status that you had. They're all about status. Perhaps you owned your house where the new supply rents. So now the initial excitement starts to wear off, and the narcissist begins to realize that their new partner isn't meeting all their needs. And this realization can be a huge blow to their ego and self-image. Now here's where narcissist collapse comes into play. The collapse happens when the narcissist's carefully constructed self-image starts to fall apart. They're faced with the harsh reality that their new partner isn't the perfect solution that they had hoped for. They might start to feel intense frustration, disappointment, and even self-doubt. And this is a pretty significant emotional crash because their self-worth is wrapped up in this. It's so tied up to external validation. They have nothing inside. They're empty shells. So let's break down what typically happens in this situation. Like I just said, the disappointment sets in. The narcissist starts to see flaws in their new partner that they didn't notice before. The initial idealization of the new partner fades, and then they begin to realize that the new relationship isn't as perfect as they thought. And this can lead to feelings of disappointment and frustration. So now they might attempt to reconnect. The hoovering starts. Often the narcissist will try to reach out to their previous partner. They might attempt to rekindle the relationship or at least get back some of the validation that they used to receive. And this is usually a desperate move to regain some of the admiration that they're missing. And sadly, many of the victims end up feeling hopeful and they take the narcissist back, thinking that the narcissist has finally realized how much they love them and now everything is finally going to be great. So they take them back only to go through the cycle all over again. And when this happens, often the narcissist will discard again and come back and discard and come back. And the cycle will just continue that way. But today we're talking about the victim no longer accepting the behavior where narcissistic collapse takes place, which is the next thing. Rejection and more rejection. When the previous partner has moved on and isn't interested in reconnecting, this rejection, it can be a massive blow to the narcissist. It's like a double whammy, losing the new partner's admiration and realizing that their previous partner is no longer available. And this can trigger a deeper collapse, which leads to intense emotional reactions. The collapse can lead to a range of extreme emotions. The narcissist might go through periods of intense anger and rage, blaming everyone around them for their problems. They might lash out at their new partner, their ex, their family, their friends. The mask comes off here, right? So now the reveal takes place because their friends, their co-workers, their family members start to see who they truly are. So narcissistic supply becomes harder to get because no one's buying into their games anymore. They become desperate to find supply from anyone they can. It's a matter of life or death for them. They're now spiraling, and it's the worst thing that could possibly happen to a narcissist. All their self-doubt emerges, and they're left to face their nightmare, which is the mirror. They'll experience deep sadness and self-pity, feeling that they're in a pit that they can't climb out of. So then they go to self-destruction. In some cases, the collapse can lead to self-destructive behavior. The narcissist might engage in risky activities, make poor decisions, or act out in ways that are harmful to themselves and others. It's a way of coping with the intense emotional pain that they're experiencing. And this rage can be directed in verbal attacks, physical aggression, or aggressive behaviors like vandalism. Let's look at some examples. Substance abuse. In an attempt to numb their emotional pain or escape from their feelings of worthlessness, a narcissist might turn to drugs or alcohol, or more drugs and alcohol, because narcissists often tend to already have these addictions, some of them. Substance abuse for them can become a coping mechanism to manage their intense feelings of shame or depression. Self-harm. Though less common, some narcissists might engage in self-harming behaviors as a way to express or cope with their emotional turmoil. That could include physical harm or engaging in risky behaviors that endanger their well-being, such as reckless driving or dangerous activities. More impulsive and risky behavior, driven by desperation or a need to regain a sense of control. A narcissist might engage in impulsive and reckless behaviors, and that could include financial irresponsibility, engaging in extramarital affairs, or making sudden unconsidered decisions that have negative consequences for themselves and others, and often and sadly, it's the children. Depression and self-loathing. Experiencing a narcissistic collapse can lead to severe depression and self-loathing. The narcissist might become overwhelmed by feelings of worthlessness, leading to chronic sadness, loss of interest in activities that they once enjoyed, and a pervasive sense of despair. But don't feel sorry for them here. This is their own doing. And if you do feel bad and then you reach out, they will be back at destroying you, because that's how they get themselves back up. So next we have the dramatic outbursts and the attention seeking. In a bid to regain a sense of importance and attention, a narcissist may engage in dramatic outbursts or seek attention in destructive ways. This might involve creating dramatic attention-grabbing scenarios or making grandiose claims about their suffering to elicit sympathy or support. They reach out for anything to get attention. They're desperate. After a while, they might attempt to repair their image. As the narcissist struggles with their collapse, they might try to fix their public image. They might start portraying themselves in a more positive light to try to gather support from friends and families. And this is a way to counteract the damage to their self-image and regain their sense of control. And in some cases, the narcissist may attempt to overcompensate for their collapse by escalating their grandiose behaviors. They might pursue increasingly extravagant or ambitious projects to restore their self-image, often to the detriment of their stability and their relationships. Isolation and withdrawal. Sometimes the narcissist might withdraw from social circles, becoming isolated and reclusive. They might avoid interacting with others or try to disappear from the scene. And this can be a way to avoid facing the reality of their situation and to protect themselves from further humiliation. And that's why a lot of times people are wondering, how come I didn't get hoovered after the narcissist left? Like, what happened? And often the reason is because of the shame that they feel. So they can't face you anymore. They can't face your family, your friends, your world. The collapse it's essentially a confrontation with their own vulnerability. The narcissist's false self, the grandiose image that they project to the world, it starts to crumble when they face the reality that their new relationship did not solve their problems. So the mask that they've been wearing comes off and they're left facing their true self, which can be painful and a disorienting experience for them. It's important to remember that this collapse is not just about the relationship itself, but also about the narcissist's internal struggles. Their self-worth is so dependent on external validation that when they're not getting it, it leads to a significant emotional breakdown. So this is pretty much all I have to say on the matter today. So I hope that this can help to clarify what narcissistic collapse looks like in the context of intimate relationships. So if you have any thoughts or questions on this topic, please feel free to share them in the comments. I'd love to hear from you and continue this discussion. Or if anyone out there would like for me to do a video on a specific subject regarding narcissism or codependency, please state it in the comments down below. And thank you. So in closing, I am wishing you all a great week. Be calm, be brave, and we shall see you in the next video. Bye for now.